Hey, we're here to keep it real, keep it light, keep it fun, keep it innovative. We're here to deep dive into the innovative babble so you don't have to. Well,
And I just want to say, I have to add, this is our third podcast,
yep.
and we're learning as we go, getting better every time. But we have not succumbed to pod fade, and for that, I say high five,
Cheers.
gentlemen.
I know, there's
Well
always the next
done.
one coming.
So as always, we are going to start with our background share of the week. I'll start. I went really simple. My prompt was just murder dungeon. And I used Domo, since we're obviously Domo AI. We're doing some work on an Innovative Babble project with Domo. And I was kind of wondering, I was like, are they just going to block me? Are they going to be like, no, sorry, we don't do murder dungeon? And I was impressed. He thought about it for a while.
Want to get that on a t-shirt. We don't do murder dungeons.
However, that being said, if you look closely, it's really more like murder cathedral. I was kind of expecting like, hanging meat and cleavers and chainsaws. But everybody's murder dungeon is different.
That's a clean looking, that's a very gothic, that's a like romance novel with werewolves and vampire murder dungeon is what that is.
My wife would love that room if we could just open a portal to it.
So mine is, the prompt was, I think I was doing for like forbidden temple secret, again, this project we're working on, I was trying to find different ways to do like a ancient temple fortress kind of thing. But this is actually generated inside of Google Meet with their new AI generator background tool. So if I don't know if it's in the like general, if you just have a Gmail address, but because we have a business account, right? And I have the LLM, I have the AI tools for our Google Workspace. In there, I noticed the other day that you're able to do like a type 2 and generate, 4 backgrounds and see what that is. So played around with that a little bit there. So it's kind of fun as you're doing different meetings, you can maybe type in a different background and have that pop up as opposed to their generative ones they have in there already. I haven't seen any that do motion, which I think would be a very cool next step, because some of their backgrounds have, like there's a Halloween one right now where the owl is moving a little bit behind you in spooky clouds. But I thought it was kind of a fun integration that I haven't seen advertised anywhere. So this is just kind of a subtle, like, oh, change your background and type in what you want thing. So
it didn't do a bonus feature.
Yeah, it didn't do a bad job. I thought it was pretty nifty. Now you can't download it from what I've seen. So I screenshotted it and then brought it into the project. But it was pretty well done.
Nice. Very nice. All right, Bo.
Well, I just wanted to say that's really cool. It's cool to see like AI being implemented into all these different tools that people are already using. Because I know I've seen it come into some of the tools that I use to design learning experiences. And I know we're going to be talking about, Adobe Max, and that's kind of a big tool for creatives to use. So I'm super excited for that later on in the episode. But
nice. That's what we call foreshadowing. That's what we call
a little
foreshadowing.
So my background here, and hold on one second, I've got a little intro to do with it. Let me make sure I get it lined up correctly.
I feel like this is going to be interactive. Oh, you're working at your desk. I like that. All right.
Oh, hello.
I didn't see
you there. I was just hard at work in my AI laboratory / coffee shop that I generated very quickly using OpenAI.
Okay, well, I think that's a no-brainer. Bowie came with a background and shtick.
Yep, shtick. I'm gonna say Bowie wins this one.
That's a hard win.
He gets a trip at the dunk tank of AI piranhas. That's what
I love to play with the perspective a little bit, and yeah, it was fun.
You set the bar high.
I know.
And next time we get, now you gotta, oh God, now I gotta come up with a routine.
Yep.
Gotta do a bit.
4
Okay.
act
All right.
play. Everyone be prepared for it next time. It'll be good.
All right. Well, enjoy the win.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All
thank
right.
you.
And
I
when
know it'll
we
be few
come
and far between
back,
with this group.
right, we're going to go into our headline of the week.
And we're back. And the headline of the week this week is coming from none other than Mr. Ian Loomer.
So this is literally the headline of yesterday, because this is what I saw people from Runway ML posting. And I know we've been giving a lot of Runway ML love, but it's because they keep coming out with really cool stuff every time. So they are now introducing a tool they're calling One Act. And I'm really fascinated by this because it is utilizing AI to track facial movements and directly apply that to 2D or 3D generated characters that have motion in them. So say you have a video scene or a character generation, you're able to track that point to point, and it looks like it's eyes, the nose, the face, the grimace. Like, it's pretty detailed, but it's highly impressive what they're able to accomplish with just this AI tool.
Yeah, and as you say, I mean, it's almost hard to keep up. It seems like they release something new almost weekly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some innovation. Now, this seems to be one of the bigger ones.
Hmm.
And as we've talked about before, and we talked about when we were kind of like doing the talking about the Gen 48, I have in the past, for a long time, DID was my go-to for lip sync. And like, but this isn't just lip sync. I mean, it's
Yeah.
performance. So I'm kind of thinking if this works as well as it looks, it's going to be a sea change for me.
Oh, 100%. And I imagine it's a lot easier to use than the tools that are out there. Because if you're in the animation world, you're in the CG world, like, this is not a new experience, right? They've been mocapping faces and recording that
Sure.
for over a decade now, right? I mean,
Adobe Character
Adobe
Animator, you can
Character
basically do the same
Animator,
thing.
but those are pretty complicated tools to use. And there's a lot involved there of tracking the faces, making sure you have the right tools to do that, depth map censoring. If it's like everything else in Runway, I imagine this is going to be pretty seamlessly plug and play, where you record yourself on a clean background or your talent or your actor, and then you can just superimpose them on top of any kind of character. And I don't know, the demos they're showing are just mind blowing.
Yeah. Talking about the speed at which things advance, just a couple of years ago, even just a couple of months ago, to create something that is available kind of in an out of the box tool right now, like with a minimal cost of entry, just thinking about the variance of investment to make those things possible. It's pretty incredible to think about what'll be possible in just a couple months or,
Hmm.
a year from now.
Right. And I mean, that feeds really heavily into, I think, what one of our operating premises that, these tools, they're not replacements for people. In a lot of ways, they're opening the door to
Yeah.
people who don't know how to use Unity, can't afford Maya. I mean, and yet still have stories they want to tell, still have visual um, storytelling aspirations, and it just allows them to do that. There's still human involvement. It's obviously those are human
Hmm.
performances. You're not just pressing a button. You're not just typing in what you wanted to do. Um, so that's the part. That's the part to me that continues to be exciting.
Well, I think about two small companies, agencies, creative entities, or even clients who have always wanted, man, I'd love to have my mascot for my plumbing business in a commercial doing, but they've never been able to pay for animation because doing that is just insane. Now the cost of entry and the barrier of that, I think, is going to be a lot lower going forward. And so it's the democratization of creativity a little bit, right? It's the iPhone jumping in and going, wow, it's going to take over, and but people still shoot with the Arri Alexa, and sometimes they'll shoot with the iPhone. And
Yeah,
it really just
and
depends.
nobody's gonna confuse this with Inside Out 2. That's not,
Not even a little
it's
bit.
it's there is a level of expertise and professionalism that, is required to do a certain level of work, but there will be fun, small projects that people will be able to
Mhm.
accomplish that would not have been on the table.
Inside Out, I still haven't seen, by the way. I don't know if I'm emotionally equipped and ready for that. I don't think the world is ready for a giant blubbering bearded man, as I break down on all my emotions.
Yeah, I actually had to sit like 2 seats away from my family, just because I didn't want to embarrass them, with all of
With all the
the
feels
man
that we
weeping.
get as grown modern men. Yes, I like it.
All right, well, that's the headline of the week. So now we're going to dive into our main topic. And for once, it's not runway. I know everybody thinks that we're just like
Runway
runway
shills.
runway shills. No, now we're going to talk a little bit about a classic tool that most anybody would know in the creative industry, whether or not they have any interest in or knowledge of AI, and that's Adobe. Adobe's Creative Cloud suite, while still admittedly frustrating to some, maybe old dogs like myself who still like buying the box and having the software and owning it,
Hmm.
don't necessarily love the monthly bill, but at least they're making the monthly bill a pretty high value because at least at this point, they've not added additional cost to filtering in all of these AI tools. All of the Firefly augments just kind of come with the basic package. And now Adobe Max was just last week, so this is all pretty fresh. That's the conference where they announce and demo a lot of the new things that are either already available in beta or are coming soon. And so we just wanted to take some time to talk through that. I will start coming as I do from the post production and sort of editing standpoint. The thing that I saw that I loved, and again, this is not something. It's not radical. It's not like it's making the movie for you. It's not something that's like taking away somebody's job. It's just what they called like extend, and it's
Yes.
it's simply just as advertised. If you're editing something, you have a clip, it's B-roll, and we've all been there where it's like, oh, just if it was just a second longer, or oh, I can't even do a transition because I don't even have 15 extra frames. You just go in, you slide, use the extend tool, and it creates that little bit of video that you need to make everything work, to make it look nice. I think that's a pretty amazing innovation.
Hmm.
And again, it's just an efficiency tool. It's not doing anybody's job. It's just a nice feature. And what I didn't realize, I'd heard about it before. I'd read about it a little bit before the Adobe Max demo. That also extends to audio.
Hmm.
It will extend an effect. It could extend room tone. Have we all worked on a thing where we didn't get room tone, or like there's a little bit of noise in the room tone? Now you can take that, use the same extension modality, and boom, you've got what you need. I love that. That
That's
to me
super
is one of
cool.
the biggest
I am
pieces.
a little frustrated with some of its limitations in that right now that extend is limited to 2 seconds. I'm sure that will grow as it goes on. But you got to think about like, all right, in a 30 frame per second project, it's generating 30 images and extending and that's 60 images. And if you think about that in like mid journey perspective, right? Like if you generated 60 images in mid journey, they'd be like, yep, your time's up. You don't get any more images. Like, so I try and like give that a little bit of like, okay, they're trying to eke it out and get tests and all that while also not, burning up 1,000 servers to run this thing. And you can also only extend once per clip. Because sometimes you need 4 seconds. And so how do you extend that a little bit longer? And so right now, this workaround
Yeah.
that I was playing around with is like, okay, well, you extend it, you export it, you bring it back in, and you extend. And okay, now that's a bit of a tweak. So if you're like, oh man, I really needed 3 seconds, I really needed, I want to do the front of this clip and the end of this clip because the middle hits are the right point. You can't do that. So you bring in the clip again, you generate the front half, you splice in the middle. It's
Yeah.
interesting to have to work around it, but it's still a very cool tool.
Yeah. No, that's a good tip though. Because as you say, it's 2 seconds. To me, it seems like a lot. I mean, it seems like that's usually no more than what you need
That's
for
what we
that
all tell
tiny little
ourselves, man.
tweak.
2 seconds is a
But
lot.
not
It's fine.
sometimes.
It's,
Sometimes you need you need a lot more. Um, yeah. So there's that, and then the other, just kind of like in a straight video world, they are about to launch their version of Pika or Runway or whatever, just text to video generation.
mhm.
And you know, I, I've almost gotten to the point where saying, and the demos look great. It's like, well, of course the demos look great. They wouldn't release it if they didn't.
Some
So
some
that's
interns run 30,000 different variations of the word to find the right one to throw into the demo.
right.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, But again, if that's baked into a tool set that we're all already using, uh, and again, I'm parroting their marketing points, but according to the people at Adobe, this stuff has been trained on footage that's been licensed. It's not just scraped off the internet. They at least claim that they're trying to, approach this process with some degree of integrity. So, I think that that's not for nothing.
I push back a little. I heard that you saw the thing, they changed the NDAs, right? Not the NDAs, the licensing agreement, right? We all know we don't ever read those, but in there it was like, if you stored it in the cloud, we can now use it for our. And so I'm curious to know how much is based on what they paid to license and how much is based on what they've pulled from their legalese contracted. It's on our servers, and so we have right to use it content.
Yeah, it's a fair question. I would love to hear more reporting on that. My
Yeah.
guess is they've probably been training these long enough that they had to be doing that work before the licensing changed, but maybe not.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. So I'm not a lawyer.
Anybody out there knows?
Anybody
I'm
out
sure
there
again, this is the sort of
knows.
thing I know people will have opinions about. So please flame away if you have real knowledge or even just a spicy opinion.
And we're still going to be able to
Yeah.
use other, because that was one of the demos we saw, right? In like Adobe Premiere, is you can say, all right, I want to generate with Pika. I want to generate with, Stable Diffusion. I want to generate with, because, depending on what you're working on, they each have very different vibes, I guess is the right word,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so making sure if you're doing a high fantasy kind of project and edit, pulling in Pika might be the best option.
That that kinda does segue a bit into, you know, the thing that I wanted to highlight about Max is that they were adding their AI tools into a bunch of different products. So bringing in some of the functionality that we've seen in Premiere over to InDesign and Photoshop and rolling out those tools, like we've highlighted here. The demos always look great, and your results may vary based on your input and honestly the amount of time you want to spend putting into getting a good result out of an AI. It's like we said, it's never going to replace the artist, but I am excited about the implications, especially for students or for people that are trying to just you know, create quick mock-ups of ideas that can then be executed, to the degree that they are really envisioning down the road. I think it's, putting those tools right at the fingertips of people that can really take advantage of them. So it's really
Yeah.
exciting.
Was it InDesign where they were showing off the Halloween sketch turned into flyer? That was really, really cool. And
I can't remember if it was that or if it was Adobe
was it
Express.
expect? Yeah, but the idea behind it is solid, right? Of like,
Yeah.
I'm a terrible artist. Like, people do not allow
Yeah.
me to draw
Me too.
things. It is I'm very confused or very concerned that AI won't even be able to understand what I draw. But the idea of, all right, I can sketch it out and then have a functioning working prototype with layers that, we can manipulate, that it's not, hey, here's the image, it's baked, you're done. But now we can start working on it. I can maybe tweak it a little bit and then hand it off to a person to go, hey, here's the base, or here's where my thoughts are on this. And we have a common language with an
Yeah.
actual graphic artist or designer is really cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then similarly, and I think this maybe was in Illustrator, the ability to take like a basic design and apply it to different aspect ratios, different deliverables, different, kinds of media that you might ultimately need.
It's been hit or miss a little bit. I've seen in other programs trying that. So Canva supposedly has this like AI redo where like they'll take your image if you're doing a 16:9 presentation and then turn it into like a 9:16 for TikTok or something like that. And I've not had a lot of success with that to date. It gets very just tries to squish everything and make everything smaller. I'll be curious if Express and Firefly and Photoshop and all that can up the value of that and really make it work
Yeah.
Yeah.
well.
I'd like to believe that the reason that they wouldn't have like released a feature like that right after someone like Canva is that hopefully they put a little more care into that very
Mm.
issue. But yeah, it'll take a little playing around to see.
Well, I'm really excited about the sneaks they were doing and some of the stuff that they haven't even announced of when those are coming and what those are going to look like. And man, some of them were mind blowing. The 2D, the turntable, that one looked really cool where you can take your flat 2D vector drawing and generate a 3D model out of it that's not 3D in the traditional sense, but 3D so that you can get different angles. And I can see this really improving things like storyboarding, final creation adjustments for clients. Like, oh, I love that, but I wish he was angled a little bit more this way or that way. You just turn it and do it. I'm kind of was bummed we weren't getting it right away because I already have some things I want to test on it. Like, can I throw some, like I opened up Illustrator just in case to be like, is it in the beta? Can I see it?
Yeah, yeah, that was a great sneak. That's always it's funny. Sneaks is always hit or miss. It kind of depends on the host. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't think that Aquafina was feeling it. She seemed like to me she was kind of like,
I'm an
yeah.
Aquafina stan. I will listen to whatever Aquafina puts out. I'm there. Her last movie was with John Cena was beautifully terrible. I will pitch for that. I'm an Aquafina stan. So you're
Oh
not
yeah,
gonna
well
get a lot out
I'm
of me.
there. I'm there for Aquafina. I felt like Aquafina wanted to be elsewhere.
Well, but money makes you be there. Good.
Money's good. I'd go.
I'd go. But yeah,
Um,
Yeah, it looked like a good time.
there was another one that I thought was great, and again, just a simple efficiency. The Clean Machine, Project Clean
yeah.
Machine, taking out flashes and even people crossing frame. I
Hmm.
mean, again, that's just a simple efficiency if you're dealing with footage that's caught on the go, and you're not the kind of thing where people are having the time to set up shots in such a way where you can avoid all that kind of stuff. What a great thing to be able to go in and so quickly and easily clean things up.
Yeah. I mean, all of that in Photoshop and their perfect blend, for me, that's going to be a game changer of manipulating photos, throwing things on, and then being able to have AI understand how they should all blend together is going to be really exciting because that's the thing I struggle with is, really getting into like the blending options. That's deep Photoshop territory. And for like a high level user like I do, where I'm like down and dirty, moving fast, I can see that being really beneficial. And for people who are experts in it, hopefully giving them a place to go, okay, I can dial it in from there, right? Like I'll see what the AI does. And then it's kind of like when you were doing like auto contrast and auto total, you're like, okay, let me see what the generation happens. And then let me like make it my own and tweak it from there.
Bo, you got another feature? You got anything else that you found particularly appealing or interesting?
No, I think at this point, I'm just excited that it's being implemented in so many tools. And like we said, your results may vary, but with a level of reliability that it's actually useful for things beyond just, help me write this email with a bunch of extra filler in it and, check my grammar,
Yeah.
spell check. It's like AI has become way more useful than that. And, you know, putting it directly into all these creative tools is really exciting.
And I'm not gonna lie, since I mean, it's like I'm always gonna have to have Creative Cloud. Maybe I don't always have to have 8 of these other tools or subscriptions that I'm paying for. So if they can operate on a par with some of the early comers, I mean, that's gonna be kind of great. That's an efficiency that I would welcome.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if, we're in an AI bubble right now, right? Everything is AI, everything. There will be, I think, a consolidation. And I'm already starting to see it a little bit with a couple of programs that have announced, like, hey, we can't tell you who we're working with, but we're going to be shuttering down our services on this date because we've now partnered with so and so and we'll be, rolling into them. So whether it's a hard buy or like a soft partnership or something like that, I think we're going to start seeing some consolidation because yeah, I'm not gonna lie, all this testing, all these tools, my pocketbook's feeling it a little bit. Every one of them wants a $20 to $30 a month subscription, which is fair because we're using a lot of server time and all of this. And after, really diving into like comfy UI, like I understand like, oh, okay, my little M3 Max, 48 gigs, like it's a massive machine. It'll still like, oh, you want to render a 10-second video? That's going to take so
Hmm.
the fact that I can get a 10-second video rendered on Domo in about 10 minutes is an understanding of the level of computational power that they have available to them that we're utilizing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was reading an article about a new series of NVIDIA GPUs that's, specifically designed to run at home, you know, LLM models. And I was like, oh, how much are these? And they were starting at like 29,000 on
Oh,
sale.
you know,
I was like, oh,
just a little bit on
and
sale.
yeah, the one the one model I was reading about said it suggested you run it on at least four of them. So I was like,
Oh,
oh,
okay.
okay,
Well, maybe we can find
bit of a
a like a
barrier
Black
of entry
Friday
there.
coupon and is the right time to ask for sponsors? Is that what we do now at this point?
That might be a little
It might be
early,
a little early. Okay.
but I like where your
I
head's
don't know.
at.
Maybe
Yeah.
there's some
Donations are
plucky
welcome.
upstart
Thank
who
you.
believes in us.
Well, so that's our little like high level overview of Max. Obviously, we'll put some links and some examples in this video and in the description below. But we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we will do our shares of the week. And we are back, and we're going to dive right into our shares of the week. I have what I thought to be a fairly interesting conversation this week with some folks over at 11 Labs. They are getting into the publishing business. They're pioneering a new platform. They're kind of making a pitch to independent authors that if you want to take your work and create an audiobook, they will partner with you to do that. Now, I mean, this is so new. I mean, they're literally, and I always love this when companies do this, they're reaching out to people to ask, well, if we did this, how would you like it to look? How would you like to be paid?
Hmm.
What are hurdles that you've had to self-publishing in the past that you'd like us to perfect?
Hmm.
And I mean, I imagined in my head, well, a lot of things went through my head. One was like, you know, I can't quite imagine even the most sophisticated AI how it would be able to discern characters. Like when you have somebody you narrating an audiobook, they usually drop into a character voice for all the different main characters. Is there some way? What is the magic sauce that would allow 11 Labs to be able to tease out individual characters and give them different, inflections?
Right.
Have yet to see that.
Because sometimes,
Um,
especially in a dialogue in a situation, you quit with the John said, Sarah said, he said. So you like it's exposition, right? It's sentences, and you intuitively, as you read it, know who these
yeah.
characters are. But can an AI pull that content out?
Yeah, so I'm curious to see that. But the one thing that never even occurred to me, and I thought was a great idea, because my question was, oh, so I assume you can just go in and pick from any of the voices that you already have, and then what? You're just like selling it as a unit, or is it a subscription? And they said, well, actually, we're trying to figure that out. It might well be a subscription because what they're planning to let people do is like you pick the book, you pick the piece of work, but then you also get to pick the narrator. So they would like have a collection of voices that you would be able to, make the decision. Do I want it to be male? Do I want it to be female? How do I want it to sound? And of course, the best thing for the authors in particularly, multiple languages. So suddenly you're opening up your audience to people that you might have never had the opportunity to sell to before.
Right. I can see that being maybe even the key driver, right? Because I think a lot of audiences or a lot of authors are going to want a real great narration to their book, but that distribution to other audiences in other languages could be really a big selling point, especially if it's cost effective.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Agreed.
curious about that and what that might cost from an 11 Labs perspective. Because you can think about, all right, if you're getting like an audible narration, it can vary, but let's say on average, it's like 200 a finished hour. And a finished hour can take an audiobook narrator, an hour and a half to 2 hours to record, depending on their skill level, right? Because a lot of times they're running on the fly, they're editing as they go, and then doing some final in post cleanup and stuff like that. And then somebody's got to proof it, watch it. And it's nuts when you think about like 15 hours, right? Or in Brandon Sanderson's latest book, it's what did I see? It was 65 hours was the Audible book. I was like, oh my gosh. But a normal 150,000 word book is going to come in at like $3 to $5 grand to get an audiobook narrator. And so
Yeah.
that's feasible for a lot of people, but in this like fast-paced indie author Wattpad slash Royal Road online circulation, the individual self-published, KDP kind of thing could be a really interesting opportunity to
Yeah, because it sounds like, at least right now, and again, they are working everything out. It's kind of a nascent deal, but it's like it wouldn't be, you wouldn't have an investment going into it. They would just be taking a cut of sales. So, that being able to keep the bar of entry to taking your work and making it into an audiobook, something like that, where you're not out
yeah.
several $1,000s and hoping for the best, that's pretty compelling.
Yeah, that and I'm curious too. Yeah, the performance issue is going to be interesting because there are two kinds. There is the I'm reading you a story and I change my voice a little bit, as you mentioned. But there's also like the teleplay style, which is very popular. I know we've done with you, Russ, and Sound Booth Theater is a really popular one that does a lot of like kind of nerdier style books where they'll bring in different actors and actresses to read different parts, and they have sound effects and music going on in the background to add ambiance. So, how deep does that play into what they're doing?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And just to kind of a callback to Adobe Max, another sneak that I thought was great was Supersonic. That
Hmm.
kind of allows you to do sound design in an easier way. And you could end up wedding those two things and really kind of create something nice that's like a book that's an audio play throughout with a much lower bar of entry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right,
I
what do y'all got?
Well, you want to
oh,
go?
I was just gonna add that I saw a TikTok ad that was served to me, and it was about a fantasy book, but they had shot almost, I'd say maybe just under like a Netflix level of production, but pretty good production quality, good real costumes, not many effects, but I could see AI being used to kind of fill in the gaps. And it was good. They basically shot like the first chapter of a book and then said, want to continue the story? Click here to download the audiobook or, to your Kindle. It's like, all right, that's a
Oh,
pretty
like a
compelling
little
way to
like
market.
yeah teaser into
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's like you get introduced to the main characters and
Mhm.
then you want to find out. It was a good hook.
All right.
Nice. Nice.
All right. Uh so my share of the week is Claude AI computer use. Just recently they announced this feature where you can give the AI total control of your computer and let it execute tasks for you. So you can tell it, take a look at the desktop, copy all the information from window one over to window two, fill out the form, submit, and, rinse and repeat from this spreadsheet. You can have it do basically any, you know, inane task that you could think of. Uh, and it uses basically it takes a screenshot of your desktop, analyzes it, moves your mouse, clicks, and then rinse and repeats until it accomplishes whatever prompt you've put in.
Hmm.
That's
I haven't tested it
interesting.
myself because I'm not ready to hand over that level of control to the AI quite yet.
Yeah, right.
I will hand
Especially
over
one
that
called
level of control to
Claude.
AI. I'm very
This
But
sounds like the very thing that the law in California that Gavin Newsom vetoed was trying to stop.
oh yeah.
yeah,
If your system can do this, you need to like report to somebody in the government.
yeah, if it can click on itself.
If it can
Right.
open its own app, then you maybe
Right.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
we can log into
That's
your
a bit
bank
of a
But
account for you.
but it's pretty exciting. And I was reading or I was watching a video of someone who had tested it and they were using it to write some code and eventually, it was able to do it, but a couple of the attempts had failed and then at one point the coder had got distracted and just started googling images of Yellowstone. So I was like, "Oh, that's funny." That and I was like, "I wonder if it is taking all that data that people have trained it on." And it's like, I like Yellowstone.
I mean, I just came back from there. It's beautiful. Highly recommend it.
It may have seen your buffalo
It may have seen my
is all I'm
buffalo.
saying.
No, I don't know. I think about, I just did a task for a client, where there's 70 some odd web pages that all we needed to get screenshots of the desktop, the tablet, and the mobile version, and full page screenshots of each of these, and then put them into a project management system so the end client could review them from like a project management perspective as we're doing this kind of interactive project. And that was a tedious task. And essentially what I did was I did a very manual version of that. So I spent probably a half day with a program called Keyboard Maestro, which is really cool. And you can essentially do the similar thing. You record yourself doing a series of actions. You can add in some keystroke commands. You can bind new commands. And then I bound it all to my Stream Deck with a key command. So basically, at a push of a button in real time, my computer went through 70 different web pages and manually captured all of these. And I'm sure there are better ways out there. I'm sure developers and coders will be like, oh, you just got to do this thing there. But like, I don't know. I'm figuring it out. It's great. If AI could do that for me and just like operate and run in the background and manage all that, as opposed to me having to create that algorithm to do that, I'm all for that thing. Cause there's a lot of those repetitive tasks that we end up having to do.
Yeah, I think of some of the things we had to write scripts to do for, FFmpeg or, we had those massive outputs. So, here's a series of stills that has to be slightly modified and changed into a video file, or, each one has to be renamed and there's 100,000 of them. There's definitely a lot of specific tools that have been created to do that, but if you can do it all from one interface and just let it control your whole life, everything's fine.
Or not. I don't know. It depends on what Claude's got control of. All right. So my Babel
How about you,
share
Mr. Loomer?
of the week is going to be on Comfy UI. So I've been really jumping into Comfy UI the past couple of weeks, trying to just understand better the workflow processes of how it works. And if you don't know, Comfy UI is built on Stable Diffusion, and it's a server kind of base. So I'm on a Mac, but on a desktop, you download all these package softwares. You have to run Python. You open it up from a terminal command. Like it's a very kind of old school process to kind of start your own like localized server that then you run. It's really great if you're trying to work footage, but don't necessarily want to upload it to, a Domo or a Runway. And also you don't want to pay because you're utilizing your own local GPU, your own local CPU, your own VRAM and all of that. But it's a lot to set up and get involved with. And so the Comfy UI org the other day has released and has open betas for their Comfy UI desktop app. So it just simplifies the process. And all it's doing is it's just kind of localizing a Python environment, but it's in an app, which makes it really nicely. We're all very used to this frame environment. And I'm not gonna lie, like getting into Comfy and figuring out where to put files and how to load package scripts and LUAs and what folder these different things go in. It's a bit of a learning curve. They have not simplified the workflow at all. That is still a beastly thing unto itself of managing all these different checkpoints to the LUAs and getting those, or sorry, LoRa's, and getting all those to coalesce the right way. But just in testing, I'm really excited to make this easier to use because I think more creatives will get involved if you don't have to watch 2 hours of YouTube videos to understand how to set up your Comfy UI environment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that sounds amazing. I mean, that sounds like a slog that is way over my head, but if the app works, give me a call.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes all node based, right? It makes it really easy to understand what that flow is. And I think, after some testing and thought, it's pretty weirdly intuitive. And you can start pretty small with, I just want to go from here to there with like 3 nodes. But then as you dive deeper into, Comfy, you're able to create sections that do different things. So workflow I'm working on right now, and somebody else created, right? Everybody is sharing. It's a very open source world. Everybody shares these workflows. Um, is really interesting in how it operates, and it gives you a little insight to how maybe like a Runway or a Domo or a Pika operates in the back end because of how it generates, how it upreses, how it has specific functions built to just focus on specific things. So it'll run in tandem, and this one's trying to fix the face. This one's trying to fix the hands. This one's trying to fix the legs. And so it runs these sections. This one's compiling them all together, and then it's upresing it again. This one, and so you can see the different kind of functionality as it bends, and it runs all the wires and the gobbledygook behind there. It definitely stresses me out of where things are, but it's fascinating and definitely something I think more people should play in. And I think this is going to make it easier for more people to start playing in a core kind of comfy UI.
Nice. Very nice. All right. Good shares, everybody. So I think that means we're going to wrap things up with, as always, the prompt of the week for anybody who's out there playing at home. And, it's a little cliche, but we figured just go with holiday horror. And maybe even if you want to get edgy about it, how far can you push your generative AI platform before it just says no? Because a lot of times it just said no. I tried once, and it was actually for the most benign of reasons, tried to get Midjourney to make me a nice picture of an ice pick.
Mm.
No. I mean, it did everything humanly possible to not make an ice pick, basically. And it's not like I said ice pick in someone's brain, which is an ice pick, like nice on a wooden charcuterie board. And it really seemed to have a problem with that. This was a while ago, granted, but I think that there are still, they're all very idiosyncratic in what words and phrases and ideas kind of cause it to shut down. So get the goriest, scariest, Halloweeniest thing that you can do. If you're out there, share it with us, and we would love to see it.
And check out Domo AI. They're doing a Back to Scream event. So if you're looking to find a new tool to generate and play in something, go see theirs, join their event. They're doing a really cool, like Halloween-centric model of video generation, but they also have it for image generation. So I would check that out.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in.
See your spooky creations.
Spooky.
And we will see you next time.
All right.
Glitches in the neon, data streams, they never stop. Cities made